Oh, where am I? Whose computer is this? Wait a minute. You're a Purp pone. You're slow for someone into fast mares. And, your Twilight folder is small for someone who likes Twilight. I don't like Twilight Sparkle. I love her. If I don't love it, I don't save it. Hey guys, so I've just had a lot of thoughts about Twilight Sparkle that I've been wanting to share, that I've shared plenty of times, but I kind of wanted to get it consolidated into one kind of central place where you can just hear it, because I've explained this stuff over and over to different people, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I kind of want to get it out there. It's just my opinion. You know, I know there are differing opinions. I've friends that think other things of Twilight Sparkle, but you know, I really love Twilight Sparkle, and I've thought a lot about her and about all of these things that I'm going to talk about. So without further ado, here we go. All right, so there are two Twilight Sparkles in My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. The first Twilight is snarky, sarcastic, confident, but she's still figuring things out. Yeah, it's interesting that in A Friend Indeed, if you look at it, she actually gives the wrong advice to Pinkie Pie. She gives advice that sounds sound and like realistic.
I just can't believe it. Cranky said he would never, forever be my friend. It was horrible. I know this is hard for you, Pinkie, seeing that you're friends with every pony, but you just have to accept that Cranky is going to be an exception. He just doesn't want to be bothered.
But in the end, it's just completely the opposite of what Pinkie ends up doing and what ends up working out better for her. I think it's interesting how you can think of that, how on one hand, it's Twilight obviously still learning all the ins and outs of friendships. You know, it's still early in the show. It's the first season at this time. And the other interesting thought that I have about it is that maybe it's more to say that sometimes there isn't a right answer, or the answer that we think is right is not. Like me personally, I would side with Twilight here. I think that, you know, sometimes you just can't make friends with everyone and you just got to move on or whatever. But I think it's important that in this situation, Twilight learns something from Pinkie, and that, you know, that's the whole premise of the whole first seasons, or even more, that Twilight's learning from her friends and from the situations that they find themselves in. Now, the second Twilight is neurotic, anxious, and frankly, in my opinion, a caricature of the one that came before. Some thoughts and traits that she shows in the early seasons are exaggerated, while others are completely neglected. And again, maybe completely is an exaggeration of my own part, but I do think that Twilight's character changed a lot between early seasons and later seasons, because they approach the same or very similar situations very differently. See, if you compare the situation of the buffalo versus the yaks, when Twilight has her first encounter with the yaks, she is extremely worried and anxious about anything going wrong. She's completely neurotic and overreacting, whereas in Over a Barrel, Twilight's kind of the calm voice of reason between these two parties that are campaigning on the sides of the buffalo and of the Appaloosans.
There, you go. Both the settlers and the buffalo have good reasons to use this land. There must be something we can do. Hey, I've got an idea.
Now, if second Twilight was thrown into that situation, she would be freaking out and probably make more a mess of it than it would have, or would have been without any interference. But first Twilight was there, and she handled things calmly and reasonably, and, you know, looked at all sides. One common argument or sentiment that I hear is that the second Twilight is acting so differently because of all this additional pressure that she has because she's now a princess. Personally, I think the whole princess pressure thing is just an excuse and kind of a contrived plot line, to be honest. One thing that gets exaggerated a lot with second Twilight is that she would never think ill of Celestia. She holds her on such a high pedestal that she actually has to get over some things and looking up to her. And that's cool and all, but I don't think that first Twilight she definitely holds Celestia in high regard, but I don't think that she sees Celestia as completely infallible. Because, I mean, think about the whole reason the show started. The whole show started, and Twilight got sent to Ponyville, and the whole time, throughout the whole first episode, she didn't just trust blindly in what Princess Celestia said. She did quite the opposite. She was completely doubtful that the fate of Equestria relied on her making friends. Instead, she was trying to figure out, these prophecies and everything that she had read about. So to make it suddenly, when she's given a level of power that's similar to Celestia, that she would now suddenly be even more respectful of her. I mean, like, I understand, like, now she might understand what being a princess is like and all the pressures of it and all the things they have to think about and consider. I don't know, but I understand that it's a stressful situation and everything, but I feel like Twilight lost a lot of confidence that she had. And then she ends up having to earn it back again through stupid Discord episodes. So, anyway, these two Twilights, the transition point between the first Twilight and the second Twilight isn't actually clear. It's kind of a very gradual, gentle back and forth as different writers write different episodes kind of thing. Well, for some, it is obvious. They point straight to the wings as kind of the symbol of this change and transformation in character. And that's a really easy way to bookmark it. And it's also like, second Twilight always has wings. First Twilight, I think, sometimes has wings. But because of the whole difference between the two, it's easier just to reject wings altogether and say, I fell in love with first Twilight, this Twilight at the beginning of the series, and so that's the one that I'm going to love and pay attention to and save pictures of. I don't even want to take a chance of it being second Twilight. I don't want to be reminded of that. I don't want to think of that. So they avoid the wings and they only use unicorn Twilight stuff. For a while, I was the same way because I do love first Twilight. You might have already heard my bias and how I was describing second Twilight. I couldn't come up with positive things to say about her. But I guess to me, I would just cheat and kind of translate all those positive things over to first Twilight. Oh yeah, she already had all these positive traits anyway when she was first Twilight. But it's also because the physical side of things is a very important part of who you are. For example, I would not love Twilight if she were a worm. Because Twilight's not a worm. My Twilight is not a worm. Okay, but that's different. And that kind of extends into the reason why I don't really care for Equestria girls nor humanized Twilight. But that's a discussion for another video. But I will say that sometimes I'll stumble across a humanized Twilight picture and think, oh, that's cute. But that almost never happens with Equestria girls art. And also, Sci-Twi is a totally different character. She's not even a third Twilight. She's just a completely different character that's way less interesting. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting off topic. While we're on the subject of physical differences, there's also just a simple matter of proportions and aesthetics. I believe that Twilight looks a lot better with a shorter neck and shorter horn. Her mane falls in a better place, and she's just better proportioned all around, I feel. And then there's also the thing they start doing more and more later on, which is shrinking down the eyes of the ponies, like the irises and pupils, which just kind of makes every pony look more scared or antsy or like nervous. I think it was a lot cuter in the earlier seasons, where the eyes were really big and just like more cute and kind of empty even. I feel like they shrunk them down as a way to kind of make them more expressive, which I also think they overdid. I mean, case in point, just look at A Trivial Pursuit, where they take it honestly way too far. So one reason for this split, for this difference of Twilights, is that new writers were given bad notes on what characters are like. A couple years ago, there were some internal Hasbro emails and documents that were leaked. And one thing that we find looking through them is kind of this spark notes of who all these characters are and what they're like. And with every character, it included a few episodes that were supposed to be the most important episodes for those characters, kind of the ones that they would look at to define those characters. For Twilight, one of the main ones put in there was Lesson Zero. You know, the episode where she freaks out and makes all those funny faces and does some other stuff. Personally, I like that episode. I'm not saying that that is a second Twilight episode, that's out of character for Twilight, but it's rare, a very rare breakdown from these things that she thinks are important kind of clashing. And I think they just draw on that way too much in the later seasons when they start throwing in the meme of Twilight twilighting and freaking out and having to learn how to control her breath and stuff. I mean, yeah, she would freak out at some points, but this is excessive. So overall, I think in the transition of the show changing hands between writers, I think the characters were just misinterpreted a little bit or not well communicated at one critical moment or by one critical person. It's kind of like something I learned about recently with the Halo franchise, how a lot of things with the writing and the overarching story changed drastically when production on the series moved from Bungie to 343. What some people believe is that the one guy that was in charge of overseeing the story when they moved over did not actually understand the story. And so you see Halo 4 and 5 and Infinite getting a lot of things wrong and just retconning things all over the place. To give an example, I think one thing that kind of shifted or was misinterpreted was Twilight's love for books. Now, what I believe is that Twilight's love for books is actually a love for learning that's mistaken by later writers for a love of the written word. I'm sure Twilight loves the act of reading, but what we see in episodes like It's About Time is that she values time with friends a lot. Throughout the early seasons, she is constantly going out and doing new things, taking whatever opportunity she can to learn stuff from or with friends. She doesn't dedicate all of her free time to reading anymore. She values her time with friends. And again, it's usually learning things from those friends. But anyway, here is the list of the episodes that the new writers were told were important to understanding Twilight's character. I think this list is really interesting, and at some point, I'd like to go through it more. That's a topic for a future video. But today there's one episode I want to talk about in particular that is not in this list, and that I think that should be.
But Purp, isn't Sweet and Elite a rarity episode?
Look, I know that Rarity is the main character of this episode, but there's a lot that we can learn about Twilight and Sweet and Elite. And not necessarily just from what's in this episode, but from what it means in the context of what we already know about her. Twilight grew up in Canterlot, and she's not stupid. At this point, she knows very well how to act and how things are done, especially as Princess Celestia's protege. And even if you might argue like, oh, she's not the de facto protege that everyone knows about at this point in time, around season 2, being such an important student of Princess Celestia is a pretty big deal, I would imagine. Twilight's not stupid. She knows how to act around the elite, and she knows how things are done in Canterlot. She just doesn't care about these things that aren't important, like how other ponies in the elite perceive her. Here's an example of Twilight understanding and respecting social norms. Add an example here, because I can't think of one right now. It's definitely very clear that Celestia sees Twilight as very important from the start, and you would think that the people around her that put her on such a high pedestal would notice something like that. I think were Twilight a different pony, she totally could have gotten wrapped up in the attention of being this kind of important, potentially influential pony in Canterlot. And I mean, we can assume that these ponies are of high status. If they were of high enough status to be invited to the Grand Galloping Gala the year before, or whenever it was that Twilight and her friends were there during the best night ever, then all of these nobles or elite or high-class ponies have met her at least once, greeted her face-to-face and shook hooves. So what all of this tells us is that Twilight basically doesn't care what other ponies think about her. And honestly, this is not new. We knew about this since episode 1. She blows off an invitation to a party, and basically with every pony she meets in Ponyville, all of her future friends, she doesn't hesitate to express her distaste and disinterest in actually meeting them and being friends with them, or really having them care about her at all, as she kind of just wants to get this done with and get back to doing what she sees as more important. But now, at this point, she's improved to the point where she cares enough about what other ponies think about her to the point where she can create and sustain relationships. But she still doesn't care about what ponies think of her when it's not important. Like, for example, how she's perceived when she's having fun at her own birthday party. From all of this, we can learn the one most important thing that I know about Twilight Sparkle. Listen to this clip.
Is that my dress?
Yes?
It's so simple, so practical, so me. It's the perfect dress for my birthday party. I love it.
So simple, so practical, so me. Twilight makes it clear that she enjoys this dress and why she enjoys it. Her tastes are simple, practical, and stuff that goes well with purple. Now, I'd say that classic croc green matches her coat perfectly, just like the yellow dress. And you really can't get more simple than a shoe made from one piece of rubber. Well, yeah, fine, two pieces, but they're not glued together. And honestly, it's been a long time since I've had trouble with one of those rivets. You know, the things that hold the back strap thing on there. By the way, let me just state for the record that the meme fancy Crocs are crap. I mean, like, they're all right and they can look kind of cool, but when the sole is a different piece than the rest of the shoe, you're introducing a weak point there where they can come apart. And usually the glue does not last as long as the rest of the shoe. Though I will say the Crocs sneakers are pretty darn cool. And also, knockoff Crocs are terrible. I think Crocs has really nailed down the perfect mixture for the rubber, as well as the shape to actually make them in. Any knockoff Croc that I've tried usually has either the shape or the texture off in a way that just doesn't make it as comfortable or nice anymore. And you can't get more practical than a completely weatherproof shoe. Take a look at these Crocs. I've had them for about 14 years, and my dad had them before me. He can't really remember exactly when he got them, but I think it's very possible that these Crocs are 20 years old, and they're still kicking. These are my newer daily driver Crocs. Shout out to Mount Hale for these. Go check out his channel, he has some cool stuff there. I was lamenting on a live stream at one point that I couldn't find the classic green color Crocs that would match Twilight so well. The kind that I saw in this drawing that made me start thinking about her with Crocs. And he just found them online and got them for me, had them shipped to me, which was very cool. And going back to the practicality, Crocs are completely washable. You can just take an old toothbrush or whatever to it and clean every little bit of dirt and grime and every stain off of it. You can get it smelling good as new. And when I think about like normal shoes made with like fabric and stuff like that, they can just soak up all this sweat and dirt and mud and gross, and I feel like they'll never be truly as clean as a Croc can be. It's kind of like another thing I think about is how these days almost everyone's phones are waterproof, which is really awesome, by the way. I think sometimes we take that for granted, but there's that one statistic that floats around about how phones are grosser than toilets because there are more germs on it because you touch them a lot. Or like toilet seats, to be specific. And yeah, I mean, that makes sense because if you're using a toilet seat right, you shouldn't really be getting gross stuff on it. But you touch all kinds of things every day and then you touch your phone. But anyway, what you can do is just pop your phone out of its case, get some nice dish soap, and just lather it up, clean it all off. And I actually do this every now and then. It's really nice and leaves the phone like brand new. Sometimes if a little water gets in the port, you just have to wait for it to dry out before you can charge it again. But then if your phone supports wireless charging, then you can just throw it on the wireless charger and you're good to go. So as we've seen from Twilight in parts of Sweet and Elite, and I think even other parts of the show in some ways, is that she doesn't care if she looks tacky or dorky at all. She'd totally be the kind of pony to prioritize the simplicity and practicality and comfort of the Crocs above whatever detrimental look it might bring to her. I think it's really funny the stuff people have drawn about Twilight wearing Crocs and then Rarity being really against it because, you know, naturally Crocs are not a great thing. I was actually doing some research for this video, and back in like the early 2000s or the aughts, I guess. I don't know, it doesn't feel right to call it that, but early 2000s will be less and less specific as time goes on, I feel like. But before 2010, there was actually this fashion show that featured Crocs, and then like Balenciaga, super tall platform Crocs or whatever. So I think it is ironic and funny that these have been like on a stage they've been like part of high fashion in one way or another. So I don't know. Maybe Rarity wouldn't be as against him as we might think. Maybe they just got to be the right kind of style to match with whatever outfit she's putting together. But I guess she didn't really like the galoshes. So, galoshes! And by the way, you might have seen this at one point or another, but horse crocs are real. Well, they're not exactly horse crocs, but they're these glue-on rubber shoes for horses called glue shoe. Because horseshoes aren't really necessarily like 100% of the time great for horses. They're only really that beneficial if the hoof is going to be worn down faster than it can grow back, like on very rocky surfaces or whatever. So I feel like a pony like Twilight spends a lot of the time at a desk or at a chair reading or studying or just doing whatever. Maybe she does go out every now and then. I don't think she would need a full-on horseshoe. I feel like she would wear some nice green glue shoes. I don't know, maybe not glue them on, maybe they just have straight up Crocs, whatever. It's just fun to think about. When I was looking into these, there was some comment about how it's kind of ironic that you glue these on, like you use glue to put these on, considering, like the glue and everything, where it comes from. That kind of made me think, like, what if, like, in Equestria, instead of putting ashes of the deceased in urns and keeping them around the house or whatever, what if they turned their deceased into glue and use it for important things? Or it's like some kind of honorary thing, like, oh, our ancestors are always with us. They're in every corner of this house because we glue everything together. That made me look up if horses mourn their dead or not. Because I thought I read somewhere that only elephants and humans mourn their dead, and other animals just kind of like don't really process it at all or whatever. I don't know how true that is. I'm not gonna claim to be an expert on animal mourning or whatever. But I double checked. I looked it up, and I guess they do, which kind of makes sense because I feel like that's totally something that would happen in I don't know, a movie or something. Whatever that Disney Channel horse movie was, they'd probably mourn their dead. And it also reminded me of that one part in that first Hearts and Hooves Day episode where they straight up walk into a funeral that's being officiated by this pastor horse, which is a scene that I feel like a lot of conversations have revolved around or pointed to. Just kind of interesting thing to throw into the world of Equestria. Like, what are the implications of that? Anyway, sorry to launch off on another tangent. Let's move on. All right, so for full disclosure, I think a lot of my headcanon of Twilight and how I see her hinges around the fact that I see a lot of myself in her. Like, there are a lot of things that might not make sense or really be clear canon, but I just like to think of her that way because, I don't know, it's more relatable, and I think in a weird way, it's kind of like a self-esteem thing. Like, I like Twilight, and I like to see myself in her because I have this self-confidence that I want to like myself. I don't know, that sounds kind of dumb saying it out loud. But like, for example, I feel like Twilight would have ADHD, like I have ADHD, because I do or have done a lot of things that I think would make sense for Twilight to do. Like, she loves checklists and relies on them a lot. What if it's less because she loves being orderly and more because she's learned that she has to rely on them to get stuff done? Because that's what happened with me. Because with ADHD, it's like either you medicate or you figure out ways to deal with it. Regardless, it never goes away. And both methods suck for different reasons. But yeah, like, I feel like she would totally be the kind of pony to hyper focus on something like a good book. I think that Twilight would love food and be a big foodie. I know the whole Twilight likes burgers thing comes from after she got her wings, and a lot of people will discount everything that comes after that. And I do discount a lot of stuff that comes after it. I think that her hating cheese or being afraid of cheese or quesadillas or whatever, and being afraid of ladybugs, I think those are total bullcrap. I hate those. Like in Twilight Time, she has Spike come out with this huge plate of nachos. Do you really think she would keep the stuff around to make that many nachos if she hated cheese? No, no way. Nachos are a great reading snack thing. Well, I don't know, probably even better if you're a unicorn and you don't have to worry about getting fingers oily to ruin the book and mess with the pages. But yeah, I think in my head canon, I think Twilight loves food, that she does have like some refined taste, but she can kill a burger from time to time, you know? Like, I don't think she would really get fat because of the whole ADHD thing. Like, she would get hyper focused and so caught up in what she was doing or reading that she would just forget to eat a lot of the time. That honestly happens a lot with me. And I've talked to people that the same thing happens to them too. But like that said, when it's time to eat and she's hungry, she can put away some burgers. The other day I was at this thing that they had food catered, and it was just they just got like 2 big boxes of Carl's Jr. cheeseburgers. I was like talking to someone across the table to me, and I was just eating burgers. I finished one, went up and got another, and then I just kept on eating while listening to him, and went up and got a third. I I had like burger wrappers all around me. I was just putting away these burgers, and I probably could have killed some more, but I felt like I was honestly disgusting the people around me. So yeah, I held back. I didn't eat anything else that day. It's like another time I think it was like a meal for 4 at Burger King because I had a coupon or whatever. I just ate it all by myself. But yeah, I go back and forth between bottomless pit mode and pansy little nibbler. But yeah, anyway, at the end of the day, I guess I really think that Twilight would like Crocs because I like Crocs. My feet are really flat, and shoes give me a lot of issues when pushing on bones that aren't supposed to be as close to the ground as they are when they have like arch support, like normal shoes have built into them. But Crocs, because of how soft they are and just how they're molded with a lower arch, they support my feet better than a lot of shoes, like almost any other shoe that I've tried. Unless I go through the trouble of getting an insole to put inside my shoe, which does make it more comfortable, but it's still not as comfortable as Crocs. 2, my feet need to breathe. Back before Boy Scouts died, I went to Philmont Scout Ranch one summer and we did like a 10-day hiked like 100 miles. The last 2 days, I wasn't taking good care of my feet, and I actually got trench foot, which is where your feet are like wet for a long enough time inside your shoes that they kind of like start decomposing. So yeah, it felt like the skin on my feet was like wax paper for like 2 weeks after that. And of course it smelled horrible too. And then for some time of my life, there was like 2 years where basically I had to put on dress shoes and a tie every day. And the shoes I had were comfortable. I definitely made sure of that. But after 2 years of that, I've sworn off shoes. I've had enough. I'm ready to just be comfortable for the rest of my life, just chilling out in my Crocs, unless I have to do something like hiking, of course, that actually requires like a good shoe, or like dress shoes that, you know, I'm going somewhere and I actually want to look nice. But yeah, I do really like my Crocs. I'm not going to try to tell everyone that they're the best shoe ever and that everyone should ditch their shoes and convert to Crocs. I'm just saying that I really like them, and I think Twilight would really like them too. And maybe I'm just saying that because I see a lot of myself in Twilight, but regardless of the reasoning, I think you can't really deny that it's pretty darn cute.
Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. This ended up being kind of a mess and kind of a crunch. Been wanting to do more videos, longer videos, more complicated videos. This was supposed to be something more scripted, and it kind of ended up not very much that. I've learned a couple things about myself and about my process, but one of those is that I need to figure out how to actually write a script, and we'll see if that works well for me if I ever figure that out. I did want this to be something more prepared and labor intensive than the kind of stuff I normally do. There still was a lot of kind of improv while I was talking, and while I was editing, I came to figure out that a lot of the things I say were just straight up wrong. I still think the conclusions are all right and are all good or whatever, but I feel like a lot of it's cringe and a lot of it's just factually incorrect. I left those parts in, so, you know, whatever. You can make fun of me for them. We can fight about it in the comments. The more videos coming soon. I want to make more stuff. I want to get it out there. I'm at a point in my life where I've been waiting long enough to make stuff that I'm just going to say screw it and take make the opportunity to actually work on stuff. So yeah, more videos coming soon. Please let me see, or let me know if there's anything in particular you want to see. If there are any kind of videos that you want to see me try, or want to see me make, or want to see me make more of that I've done in the past. Kind of just trying to try a bunch of things and figure out what I can do. If anyone wants to work with me on music, yeah, I was supposed to close this video with a cover of a song that I wanted to sing kind of for Twilight. I don't know if I'll do that at this point because this video took me a lot longer than expected to edit, as it always does, and I've got to leave the house to get on a plane in a couple hours, so I'm hoping that this video doesn't take more than 2 hours to render, which very well might because of the stupid 4-dimensional horse rotation in the background the whole time. And yeah, anyway, the last thing I want to say is draw Twilight with Crocs. The world can always use more of that. It makes my day to see that. And some people are drawing some other versions or interpretations of it, trying to get my goat, but I will not let them have my goat. So let's just flood the market with wholesome, cute Twilight Croc pics. And again, thanks a ton for watching, guys. Please leave a comment. I'd love to talk with you in the comments about the stupid stuff that I said throughout this video. And yeah, take care, guys. I'll see you later. Another day is going by. I'm thinking about you all the time. 'Cause you're out there and I'm here waiting. And I put this rant on YouTube 'cause I've been stuck down in the blues. 'Cause you're not here and I can't think straight. This will be the one last chance to make them understand. Yeah. Hold on. I'd do anything just to hold you in my arms. Try to make you laugh. Somehow I can't put you in the past. I'd do anything just to fall asleep with you. Do you remember me? Because I know I won't forget you.